Hey, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What we've got for you today is a video where we're trying to make an FPL team without either Salah or Haaland in it and make it look pretty good, at least, using the data we've got available. So when you have Salah or Haaland in your team, usually whilst they're great players, it can drain resources and funds from the rest of your FPL team and leaving it sort of weak in other areas. You've got to make compromises. So can we use the data to not replace them, but recreate them with players overall that would score pretty much just as the same points and look a little bit different as well. So obviously you probably will have one of those players in your team. I do think it's important to look at different options and not get too tunnel vision with your FPL squad. So if it does help you and you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, like the video. Honestly, the support has been awesome and hopefully we can keep it going as we get closer to the start of the new season. And before we get into the team, why not join my mini league as well for the channel? It's the first time we've had one in the whole time we've been doing FPL. Thought we'd get it started this season. So if you are interested, it's just for a bit of fun. The code is on the screen there and it will probably be in the video title as well. So let's get started and we're going to look at the goalkeepers. And I've gone for Dean Henderson in this team. Now, I was thinking about Jordan Pickford, David Raya, but because Henderson is 0.5 million cheaper, it does allow you to spend that extra 500,000 elsewhere. Even though we're saving money by not getting in Salah or Haaland, it's still 500,000 goes a long way in FPL and it really helps looking at that next bracket tier of defenders or midfielders. When we look at the data, we can see that Dean Henderson, when we're looking at clean sheets and total saves last season, ranks pretty highly in both. He made the fourth or had the fourth most clean sheets out of any goalkeeper, and also was in the top 10 for saves made. So I think when we're looking at the combination of the two, Dean Henderson's probably in your top three goalkeepers. Maybe you're looking at John Pickford and Matt Sells, but the fact that he's 5 million compared to someone like a Jordan Pickford or a David Raya. And with Matt Sells, you kind of don't really know where Nottingham Forest is going to be this season. Are they going to recreate that form? I think he offers a really safe pair of hands moving forwards. So into the defence, and I really do like this defence. We have some premium defenders in terms of Mark Cucurella and Gabriel, but we've also got some sort of surprises with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and James Tarkowski in there also. James Tarkowski has been sort of quite well spoken about when we're looking at the new defensive point scoring system, looking at defensive actions. And he is someone who I'm sure you've heard already would have got a lot more points last season had FPL included defensive actions into the point scoring like they are doing this season. When we take a look at the graphs and we're looking at clean sheets to final third passes, we actually see that quite a lot of these players are not only keeping clean sheets, but they're also making successful passes in the attacking spaces. So these are not just hit and hope passes, these are passes that have found their targets either in or around the opposition penalty box. So we're looking at Aaron Wan-Bissaka here. He's not only had the most successful final third passes out of defenders. Unfortunately, West Ham haven't kept a lot of clean sheets last season, but they do have a really good run of fixtures to start this year. And I think here's someone at 4.5 million, he's really underrated. It's also quite interesting to see players like Cucurella and Gabriel in there as well, making those attacking threats, also being able to play for teams that are good enough to keep clean sheets. I do like both of them. When we also take a look at the total defensive actions for last season, so this is all players, the top 20 players out of all of them, with combined total defensive actions. So that's blocks, clean sheets, interceptions, and tackles. We can see that Tarkowski and once again Aaron Wan-Bissaka make the top 20. So this shows that someone like Wan-Bissaka is able to get you potential points on both the attacking and the defensive side of the ball. So whilst West Ham might not be keeping those clean sheets, if he is totaling those defensive actions, he's still got a chance of getting those sort of two extra points that FPL are now giving for a combined total of 10 of these metrics. I think him playing for West Ham is also a plus because when you're looking at these defensive metrics, you do kind of want players who are playing for not struggling teams, but teams who are going to need to defend because you're not going to tackle the ball, you're not going to clear the ball if you're attacking. You're only going to do that when you're defending, which is another reason why I've got a Burnley defender, Esteve, on the bench. At 4 million, I think it really does change who your fourth and fifth defenders are because you've probably not got the budget to get them more expensive players. I also think you do want those players from those bottom half table teams, rather than a 4.5 million defender from a Liverpool or an Arsenal, because like I said, they're not going to have those opportunities to get those defensive metrics. So getting a defender from a promoted team, I think, would really benefit and well round your squad. So we're looking at the midfield, and of course, there's no Salah here. Now, think a lot of people who are saying don't go without Salah will probably have Salah in their game week one team. Can you hold your nerve? Because if he does get 2 goals and an assist in his first game and you don't own him at all, and a lot of people have captained him, well, you're probably 30 points down already. But that's if your player's blank as well. And I'm not saying you don't need Salah. It's not what this video is about. It's just looking at alternatives and permutations because here I've got Palmer and Saka, and in order to have Salah in this team, I would probably have to sell both of them. I'd probably have to upgrade Palmer to Salah, and that's an extra 4 million. Then you downgrade Saka because that's just the easiest place to find money to a 6 million midfielder. How much do you really rate Salah based on the end of last season was a little bit tricky. And I know the fact that Liverpool had already won the title, but you can't just turn form on and off. And I think people are maybe overestimating Liverpool's ability to start the season strong. They do have some tough fixtures. When we look at the data, we can see that obviously Mo Salah is head and shoulders above the rest in terms of midfielder goal contributions for last season. But Saka and Cole Palmer are not a million miles away. We know that Saka missed so much of the season. He played such fewer games than he would do normally. You add in an extra 10 games here, and he's going to get a few more goal returns, and that's going to put him higher up on this table compared to a lot of other people. I actually think 10 million for Saka is a fantastic price for this season. And the same for Cole Palmer at 10.5 million. I think being able to save 4 million from Salah and invest that in the rest of your midfield or the defence could go a long way as well. I'm also looking at Marmoush. Now, because he was a striker last year, he's not on this graph. But I think being a midfielder, having an extra point for a goal contribution, having an extra potential point for a clean sheet, really does set him apart of a lot of other Man City assets. And I think you can cover for Haaland by having Marmoush. No people will be worried about his minutes. I think he's such a good player. You take away the data, you just look at his footballing ability. He's so good. You do think that he will start pretty much every game. I actually think he will be one of those, more consistent Man City players. And they have great fixtures to start the season. So I think he is someone who definitely needs considering. You compare him to a Florian Wirtz, and it's like, I actually don't think Wirtz is maybe going to start as much as people might reckon he will. I think they're kind of in the same bracket, him and Marmoush, because Wirtz has Szoboszlai, McAllister, Harvey Elliott to compete with for minutes. And he's also got a new country to move to and to settle in. And it's not always this plain sailing. Marmoush has had half a season to acclimatise. I've also gone for Mohamed Kudus. Now, he is someone who would be quite interesting to get in because when we were looking at the midfielder metrics for defensive actions in a previous video, Kudus actually ranked quite highly for things like interceptions. So he's not going to get you 12 defensive contributions in a game. But if FPL are rating defensive actions more highly, that could then feed into the overall bonus point systems. You know how players will get 1, 2, or 3 bonus points at the end of each game. If he is offering you attacking returns and he's contributing things like interceptions as well, when other midfielders aren't, that could potentially help his point scoring system overall. So I do think he is has the potential to be a bit like Brian and Boomo. He's playing for Thomas Frank now for Spurs, coming in off the right, cutting in, and I think there is goal contributions there. It's a risky pick, but it's a pick at 6.5 million. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. There's a few players around the 6.57 million mark who you could just jump off to if you wanted to. I think that Burnley home game as well will be a good indicator of where he's at for the season. And if he doesn't look good against them, you might want to take him out. But if he does look good and get returns, you've got him in for a great fixture. Finally, in the midfield, I've gone for Caicedo. Again, we're talking about defensive actions. He's one of the midfielders when we spoke about it was him, Elliot Anderson, and Lewis Cook, who probably the three best midfielders to go for here. And because we've maybe gone down from a Jordan Pickford in goal to a Dean Henderson, could upgrade the midfielder, the fifth midfielder, from a 5 million to a 5.5 million. And, the 5 million midfielders and below, there's just not that many great options. For 5.5 million to get a Caicedo who I think he got a goal and 4 assists last season. They also started every game, I think, and getting those defensive extra points really could make a difference this season and set him ahead in terms of those price points. So for an extra 500,000, I think he's totally worth it. So with the strikers, I was able to have a combination here. So with no Haaland at 14 million, I was able to save quite a lot of money and upgrade the reserve strikers as you were, especially for game week one with their fixtures. You're probably going to have Strand Larsen and Evan Nielsen on the bench. If I did want Haaland, when I was just playing about with my striker permutations, I'd have to find another 3.5 million to upgrade Isak to Haaland. Let's say I need that and I'd sell Evan Nielsen. Well, I actually wouldn't even be able to afford another striker if I took 3.5 million off Evan Nielsen's price because I'd only have 3.5 million to spend, and the cheapest striker's 4.5 mil. So I'd need to get a 4.5 million striker and then still find another million from elsewhere. So then you're downgrading a defender. Say, you're selling a Cucurella or a Gabriel to a 5 million defender, which isn't the end of the world, but it does take away depth from the rest of your team, and all of a sudden your defense doesn't look quite good, and you're not getting in those players that you want. When we look at the chart here, we can see all three strikers did pretty well last season. Conversion rate, so how efficient strikers were in front of goal in relation to the amount of shots they took. So here we can see Alexander Isak took the second most shots out of all strikers. Obviously, Haaland again is at the top. It isn't about trying to say Haaland and Salah aren't good. They're obviously great FPL players and players in real life. But I think it was really interesting to see Strand Larsen and Evan Nielsen as two of the top three strikers with the best conversion rate. So they're not getting loads of chances, but the chances they are getting are clinical and they're scoring them, which will also help feed into their bonus points as well. So I think as a three, to sort of have them as a combination in your squad compared to Haaland and a 4.5 million striker and a weakened team elsewhere, to me, it makes a lot of sense. So overall, I think the strengths for me is it's a well-rounded squad with a strong bench. So that's, really interesting to sort of see because when you're looking at, an overall squad, you do want a bit of rotation there. Well-rounded means points from everywhere as well. However, the weakness is there's no Salah or Haaland. So that's obviously a weakness in the team. And like I said, you can possibly struggle here if they do hit the ground running. Although I think being able to recreate those points is really beneficial. There's also some potential risk. We talked about Kudus, but the price points I think are really not that big a deal, and it does make it interesting. So hopefully, at least this has made you consider not using them, or, not using Salah or Haaland, and just looking at different options as well, and how far the money can actually go if you decide to invest it elsewhere. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the video. Please do subscribe, like the video, go join the mini league as well. It'd be great to have you on board, and we'll see you in the next one.